how much should I warm up? I mean, your warm up shouldn't be fatiguing, but it should be preparatory. Like DJ said, like if you can only bench 225 for 5, you should bench the bar. You should bench 95 pounds. You should bench 135 for a couple reps. Touch the weight. Like DJ said, is my bench off? Is the rack? I'll lay down to bench press sometimes in other gyms, and my first set I'll lean back and it's like tilted, like the ceiling, like it's off, and I'm just like, fuck. Yeah. Like it's messing with my bar path. And if I did that with something heavy right out the gate, I'm like, man, I just wasted that set because I'm not even paying attention. So definitely make sure that we treat our warm up like our max, so that when we get to our max, we've been there.
What do you like for hand position? I know everybody's different.
Let's set up.
For me, I used to be a wide bench guy back in the day. But when I lower myself on this, I used to bench, I mean, all the way out at the end of the knurling, all the way out to here, and just so much pressure on my shoulder that now I basically come in, it's one thumb grip, and that's where I start. So now it's equidistant. It is closer. I feel like I'm just as strong now as I used to be, but it took quite a bit.
I look at it as, like DJ said, wide powerlifting. If the goal is max effort or max weight, the wider our hands are, the less the bar has to travel. Makes sense. But if I'm not benching to be a power lifter, I'm benching for the functionality of hypertrophy strength on my chest. If someone's on me, getting them off me, being inside my box, I do the same thing, DJ. I like a more narrow bench press, man. Kind of like my thumbs on the edge of the knurl type deal. Yep. I feel it's comfortable, and it puts me in a good 45-degree angle slot to bring that bar like right below my nipple line to drive up and over.
Exactly. My next point is trying to figure out where your sweet spot is, and it's really where you lower the bar in order to redirect it. And I've messed around with it a long time, and I know it's a lot, but if you see, like, I'm resetting my scaps now, even on the bar, I'm trying to get them down and back. I'm trying to get my shoulder blades to touch as much as possible, and just so it won't move. Squeezing glutes, driving my feet into the floor, and then I'm squeezing this bar as hard as I possibly can. And this is why I like to unrack it, not full arm extension, and definitely not from down here. I feel like I've got to get too much body English to unrack it. But as I grab this thing and I drive it out in position, as I go to lower it, I'm lowering it down, elbows are close to my lats, and my sweet spot isn't here.
No.
It's not down here to where I'm pushing it away from myself at a 45. It's really half inch, maybe an inch under my sternum. Like, that's my sternum right there. This is usually my sweet spot, just under nipple line. And then it's a straight drive up.
To me, that feels so natural. But once again, it's different per the person. Like, if you're someone that has some sort of longer torso, maybe you have some sort of clavicle injury, maybe you have some sort of shoulder issue, maybe you are in a different slot, and that's okay. But what I like is what DJ's doing right now is that bar is traveling up. I see some people benching sometimes, and you ever see people that have that like huge arc? I'm not a big fan of that. I think that's too much movement in the shoulder. Let's get that bar moving straight up and down. DJ touched on something pretty important when it comes to a bench press, is he is matching the stability of the bench. He has those retracted scaps on the backside, so he's matching the rigidity of the bench. He's driving his knees out, squeezing his glutes. He's got a little bit of extension of the spine, putting him in a pretty optimal position to press from. The only deviation I would make is if I had someone that had like a ton of lower back problems, maybe they have some fused spine, maybe I'll elevate their feet so they don't have so much of an extended spine. But if you can be there and be comfortable there, we shouldn't run away from extended spine, because that's how you're gonna throw, you're gonna jump. If you were to push someone, you wouldn't go, squeeze my glutes, push them. You would you'd squeeze your scaps, you'd get behind you, and you drive them.
For sure.
So we should be able to match that here. You do a couple warming sets. So I'll notice when DJ's doing his warm-up sets, for one, he treats this just like he would if there was 225 or 315 on the bar, but he'll also do like some plyometric type bench type stuff, DJ. Do the power ones? Yeah. Obviously more of an advanced type lift. If you're a novice, being careful. Obviously you don't want this bar to come down and decapitate you. But being explosive, being responsive, peaking the nervous system, I honestly love it when you do it, because it's like no different than doing like a med ball slam or a kettlebell swing before deadlifting. It's like you're prepping like, let's go.
Yeah, just trying to find that rebound, trying to find that spot, trying not to create a false arch that creates instability, not trying to tweak my lower back, just trying to be slow and in control the entire time. But for this bar specifically, this is such a nice bar. It free spins, so you've really got to engage those wrists and really lock them in.
When you push up, because I've noticed you've actually changed in the past year, you go whole foot on the ground.
Yeah, I used to do the toe thing.
Yeah.
And my lower back would cramp. The lower end of my lats would cramp up, like everything would lock.
Yeah.
And I really started hurting myself. And it was really just the intent. Like I'm engaging everything I possibly can to create stability. And the more I arch, the more my feet come up or I go on the balls of my toes. I get calf cramps, foot cramps. I'm 3/4 to a heavy press.
Your leg just kind of like kicks out.
oh no. I don't want that. But I understand like big difference, competition bench, people that do this this is their living. Like I'm trying to do 1,000-pound bench press. Well, you have to adapt everything to that. I'm just trying to be able to bench for the next 30 years.
Yeah. I like the bench press. I mean, I think it's a pretty functional lift. Some people will say, I don't want to do this for my shoulders. I only want to do dumbbells. Hey man, to each their own. But I love the horizontal aspect of just pressing, and I'm going to be able to press more weight with the barbell. Whereas the dumbbell, there is a stability aspect, but I'm also not going to be able to move as much weight. So if the goal is volume, intensity, stress on that tissue, like what's the most I can do? Like it would be with the barbell.
Yeah. I mean, like I like the dumbbells too, but I think a lot of guys rush into them because they see the big numbers on it and like, I want to be able to huff the 150-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
That is an advanced maneuver, man. Just getting those things into a proper position safely.
Remember we were in Nebraska?
Yeah, brother.
It is sketch throwing those heavier ones up.
Yeah, I mean, what were we at, 135s?
And your momentum's going back, and then at the last second, you have to like pop it up and hit the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Don't rush into that. Yeah, definitely not ego lifting with dumbbells because you will hurt yourself. I know I have.
So when DJ gets down on this 135 right now, the big thing I want people to watch that are watching this video is you're not going to be able to tell the difference. If we Photoshop the plates out, be like, is that 135? Is that just the bar? His intent is exactly the same as he works through his working sets.
Try to make it that way. And yeah, just as positive cues, just connecting this to the whole thing.
Yep.
I mean, like, I stand here every time we do it. Is it equidistant off the rack? Is this centered up to the bench? Is it cannon off at 5-10 degrees? Because if it's not, as soon as I get in there, I mean, it's like a shock to the central nervous system. Like I'm envisioning this entire lift in my mind from my grip when I reset. Once I get scaps done, if I go to unrack it and it's uneven, I just wasted all that intent for nothing now. And I feel like it's like unracking a squat rack and there's 3 plates on one side and 2 plates and a quarter on the other. And it's like, man, I just mentally prepped for 45 straight seconds for this lift, and I've got to redo the whole thing.
Do you have, so there's like multiple lifts in the gym, bench press is one of them, where I almost have like a free throw routine, like where my ADHD, I do the same thing, even if I'm spotting, I always grab the bar, I always push, I always like check, and I don't know, I always like do the same thing every single time. Do you have like a routine that you do? Walk us through it.
I do the bench equidistant on both sides. I usually do the same thing.
Yep.
I set and make sure the slop's out of both plates. I look on the ends, make sure they're a little even, like that thing needs to come in just a bit.
You sure do,
straight.
man.
Yeah. Like I set up on the bench, I always look over my right shoulder and I ID where I want my hand position to go. And more often than not, I'll load it on one side.
Yep.
I'll get one side set. I'll get this thumb set.
You always fucking adjust your hat. It's every time.
Yep. But like trying to squeeze all this in there.
Yep.
Hands are tight, and you'll see, like I'll reposition my hands and I'll squeeze them a little bit tighter each time to make sure I have it. Because once I say up, I really don't want to have to change anything. So I'm squeezing shoulder blades as tight as possible. Now I pick up spot on the rack. Glutes are tight. Everything's ready. 3, 2, 1, up. I reset the right here, and now I'm just thinking elbows down on my lats. Redirect.
DJ said a big word here. He said redirect. Once again, force isn't absorbed, it's applied. The entire time he's going down, he's thinking about, I got to redirect this weight. I got to send this weight back up to the ceiling. He's not letting it get to his chest and just collapsing or bouncing it off his chest. He's a springboard that he's not losing any energy. The second he hits the gas, drives it right back up.
Redo the exact same thing in reverse.
Dude, it's so funny you say that because literally you do the exact same. I do the exact same thing too, but you watch it. Like I'll do it, and then every time you'll come over right behind me and do it, and I'm just like, man, this is some real OCD shit right here.
I mean, it is though, but like trying to build the confidence in that. So 135 feels like 225, at least the initial setup. And then once I extend it, now I have the weight. It feels familiar. Like this pressure all feels familiar. The tension on my wrist, everything. I've done this a million times.
Yep. What are some variations that we do with DJ? We've been exploring, and all the GBRS guys. We've been exploring with dead stop presses, but honestly, DJ specifically with the shoulders is we always use a slingshot when we get to our top working sets.
Here, grab one.
Yeah, grab one real quick. But we always use a slingshot when we get to our top working sets. Maybe those top 2 or 3. So warming up without it. Still getting that good stretch in the shoulder because we want to load that tissue, that shoulder mobility of getting deep in that socket. But it gets to a point where we're lifting so much weight, it's like, all right, let's fight the battles that are worth fighting. Let's protect his shoulders so we can still press this huge amount because we need to load that tissue, load the brain. But let's save him as well, like especially with as many shoulder issues as you had. So if you got any nuances for that, I know we talk about it quite a bit.
I would start with my right arm first. I don't know if it's the second gen he did, but having these finger holes is
huge deal.
Huge. Got to have the finger holes. Mark, if you see this, bring the finger holes back. But I start with the same one, and I've seen guys do it different. They do it around the elbows. They do it super high. I do it so the bottom crease is above my elbow. Basically, whole bicep. Redirect that. If we get an arm pump, it's kind of hard to get it in. That's about it.
Perfect. Yeah. So you'll notice with this, if you haven't seen a slingshot, I'm not sure what rock you're living under, but if you haven't seen one or seen any of our stuff, it's just going to help you at the bottom. So you'll feel that stretch. Will it help you a little bit move weight back up? Absolutely, but you're still driving the weight. I think it's a great thing for people with shoulders. I've even had people that are learning to do push-ups using this as well to kind of help rebound them and redirect that force back up to the ceiling. He's going to approach this no different than he does without the slingshot. All of his routines exactly the same.
1, 2, 3, up.
Controlled change of direction, redirect, drive back up. Kind of keeps your elbows in a good slot close to our body, that 45-ish degree angle, so we're not too high up, making it a shoulder press. Controlling that change of direction, squeezing his glutes, driving his knees out, scaps pinned behind him, eyes straight up, bringing that force up to the ceiling. It's a full body movement when it comes to the tension you create.
It really is a whole body movement.
Yeah.
Like when you get done with this thing, I mean, it's fatiguing throughout. It should be. Like glutes should be engaged. You should get up and it's not just a beach muscle routine. Yeah, I like the bench press because I feel like it connects everything to me, especially everything in the upper body, wrists, forearms, everything.
Honestly, man, benching just makes me feel alive. It's something I'm good at. I love doing it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite lifts.
For sure. Any big misses you've seen guys do over the years?
Big thing I would say is we talked about is being too wide and them having the bar high up on their clavicle because now you're putting a bunch of shoulder into it, or having a flat bench. Manny, if you can come around to the side and grab us from the side. Might be kind of hard to see with these spotter arms. But if I'm in this bench press position, you get lower, Manny. Yeah.
You see a little bit of a arch in his lower back, glutes are engaged, lats are on there, but there's a gap in the bench right there.
Yep.
And that's really the tension he's creating. He's out, glutes are squeezed, it creates that natural arch. I like a hard arch, not too much, because it makes me feel like I'm almost in a decline bench.
Oh.
I'm so much stronger in decline.
Yep.
I feel like that gives it to me, but now I'm not going to move it.
Yep. DJ said the shoulders back. This is one of the biggest issues I see. So you'll see him, he sets up, gets into this retracted position. I do the same exact thing. And then I unrack the bar and I get into that same exact thing. But when you see people that don't do that and they just have like this soft back on the bench, when they press, it's all on their shoulders.
Yep.
They're not getting much out of their chest at all. So they got this flat back and they got so much shoulder going on and they stand up and they're like, God, man, my shoulder's killing me. Well, because you used all your shoulder. If your back's flat, your shoulders are involved. The second you put those things back, it's like, oh, now I can use my chest. So to me, that's the biggest thing I see with people is making it a chest and tricep exercise by tucking down and back. I heard a cue, I think it was, who was it? Old school legend. Maybe it was Dan John or someone, but they said a bench press is a back exercise. And when he said it, I was like, that's a little too far. Maybe it wasn't Dan John, but his thought process was like, lower it with your lats. Think back, 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 and press. And the second I thought about it, I was like, if you're thinking back, you're probably not thinking shoulders. And I was like, that's probably a good cue for a lot of people.
One of the big ones for me is guys who are just new to bench press, or they're chasing an ego lift, and they start to basically do that drop rep where they get to the top of it and they're basically letting the entire thing go, and they're going to rebound off their sternum.
Hold on for dear life.
Hey man, I'm telling you, you are going to crush yourself. Or guys who don't wrap their thumbs.
Oh man.
Guys who do that suicide grip. I mean, there are millions of videos on the internet. That thing blowing through, hitting guys in the throat, crushing sternums. I mean, grip super important. We always say grip matters. But the intent, lowering it, I love that. Lowering it down like I'm in control. And that's probably one of the reasons I don't have a super high bench press, is because I am so focused on lowering this thing down. It's almost like a pause rep.
Yep.
Like low, low, low. I mean, it probably takes me 5 seconds to send this thing. Like, here we go. I'm building tension right now. Then I drive at 100%. I can't rebound it, especially not at 380 something pounds. Like,
but it's why are we bench pressing? We're bench pressing for the strength and hypertrophy aspect of the chest, the functionality of pressing horizontally. Like, we're not trying to set any records, but we're trying to grow. So good form may hold you back from max effort, but it's going to set the ceiling so that hopefully over the long term you can keep going higher with healthier shoulders.
Sure. Anything for guys who are, say, guys training for NFL Combine or something where they have to do a prescribed series of reps at a weight. To say it's bodyweight bench press, and they've got to do 10 to 15 reps, and that's a serious lift. Like, you're not just going to wake up on a Tuesday and be able to pull that off unless you train it. What should those guys be focused on?
You can approach it in two different parameters, I think. You can approach it from a free weight, like cluster type movements, where it's like, okay, if I need to bench 225 or a screener and I need to get it 20 times, maybe you can't do it 20 times out the gate, but you can do 10. So, all right, let's do sets of like 6 or sets of 7, rack it, reset, do it again, touch weight. Or you can go above that. Honestly, I like using bands because it'll allow you to kind of have like a different tension of locking out, because that's where people get stuck. So it's like this from here to here is 225, but then locking out is heavier. So I like bands. Chains are a good alternative as well, but don't really have I haven't really had those in the gyms that I've had in the past. So bands, I love bands for that accommodated resistance locking out.
Awesome.